Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, over 520 people have now been diagnosed with the coronavirus in Israel. The Israeli government is considering a total lockdown of the country if Israelis don't abide by coronavirus regulations. And Israeli Wonder Woman Gal Gadot may be in quarantine, but we'll reveal this special message she's sending to the world. Well, the number just keeps on rising. 529 Israelis have now been diagnosed with coronavirus in the state of Israel, according to the Israeli Health Ministry. And the jump comes after more than 2,200 coronavirus tests were administered yesterday.
כראש הממשלה, אני חייב להגיד לכם את האמת. לשמחתי, עוד לא איבדנו אף אחד. אבל זה לא יימשך.
Right now, 6 of the patients are seriously ill, and all are elderly and had existing medical conditions before contracting the disease. The hospitals treating them say their conditions have seriously deteriorated, with 2 now unconscious and hooked up to respirators. The good news is that the overwhelming majority, 498 patients, are only exhibiting light symptoms. 13 Israelis are in moderate condition and 12 have recovered, and 279 are currently hospitalized. 86 are receiving care at home. Right now, 36 Israelis are being treated in Israel's coronavirus hotels in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, which have opened their facilities for patients to recover. And Israel's Mossad intelligence service has just brought an estimated 100,000 coronavirus tests into Israel from abroad last night. And there are plans to bring more. The intelligence agency has apparently located roughly 4 million test kits from several unidentified countries, which will be brought into Israel down the line. Now, this comes after an announcement last night that the Defense Ministry will be taking over for the Health Ministry when it comes to finding and purchasing all equipment necessary to combat the coronavirus.
וזו מגפה באמת קשה. זה לא משחק ילדים, זה לא חופש גדול, זה עניין של חיים או מוות.
Well, 95,000 Israelis have now filed for unemployment yesterday, joining more than 225,000 others since the start of March. Now, in the meantime, the Israeli government is still mulling a total lockdown of the state of Israel. The health ministry says that it won't be necessary if the public abides by existing regulations and only leaves their homes for essential services like buying food, medicine, going to work, or seeking medical care. ILTV's Aaron Porras has the details.
وباء منتشر، الأسواق كلها مقفلة، يعني تمضية وقت بنلعب في الوقت بدل الضائع، بس يعني إنه بنطلع من هالبيت شوي ونتحوج للبيت وجينا بس هوينا الدكان ونسكر ونروح.
But the mayor of Jerusalem says that a full coronavirus lockdown is expected within just 2 days, and the city is preparing for it. It's believed that the only major difference between the current situation in Israel and a total lockdown would be its enforcement by the Israeli police. In the meantime, a hotline has just been established for the tens of thousands of Israelis who are stuck abroad due to flight cancellations amid the outbreak, and the organization Israel is collaborating with the Foreign Ministry to answer all questions on the hotline that Israelis may have, including whether or not to eat in restaurants, insurance reimbursements, and how to find flights back to Israel, and how to protect themselves from the coronavirus while abroad.
Hundreds of Israelis stranded in Peru are going to be departing on a flight back to Israel today for free with El Al Airlines, and the Foreign Ministry is calling on all Israelis abroad to book flights home immediately, hinting that Israel may in fact choose to close its borders entirely. Now, a ministry spokesman says that Israelis abroad shouldn't expect the country to provide free charter flights like the flight to Peru if a decision is made to halt all air traffic. Now, amidst high controversy over the potential for abuse, Israel has also started its cyber surveillance of the entire general public in order to slow the spread of the deadly coronavirus.
של הנדבקים. התחלנו היום להפעיל את הטכנולוגיה הדיגיטלית שמאתרת את האנשים שבאו במגע עם חולי הקורונה. נודיע לאנשים אלה להיכנס לבידוד של 14 יום. אלה צפויים להיות מספרים גדולים, אפילו גדולים מאוד, ואנחנו נודיע על כך כבר בימים הקרובים. הכניסה לבידוד לא תהיה המלצה, היא חובה, ואנחנו נאכוף אותה בדרך ללא פשרות.
Using Israeli cell phones, the Shin Bet has been given permission to retrace the steps of coronavirus carriers, and the tracking will continue for the next 30 days. But the plan is already working. In just 24 hours, authorities have been able to inform over 400 new people via text message that they must enter quarantine as soon as possible. And as per previous directives, quarantine breakers face heavy fines and even possible jail time. Still, in spite of these efforts and ethical assurances from Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan, many are questioning the legality of this measure, and the High Court is now set to hear at least 3 petitions against the Shin Bet for its surveillance, which was allowed by an interim government and without the permission of the Knesset. Also, petitioners are arguing that aside from allegedly violating human rights, the new surveillance could be a political power move and could put sensitive information in the hands of people who shouldn't have it, like workers within the health ministry who are cooperating with the Shin Bet.
In other news, while leaders around the world are coming together to deal with the coronavirus crisis, Israel's government remains suspended, but at least some negotiations towards an emergency coalition are underway. And joining us with the details is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Mark Shulman. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good question. Let's begin. Likud and blue and white negotiating teams intend to meet as much as possible over the next few days in order to finalize a coalition deal by Monday. Do you think that the two parties are actually really making progress towards establishing a unity government?
It's so hard to believe. The distrust is so strong vis-a-vis Netanyahu, so it's really hard to know what's really going on. I mean, there's like a two-front war going on. On one hand, they're negotiating. On the other hand, they're trying desperately to elect a new Speaker of the Parliament. And Yuli Edelstein, the current Speaker of the Parliament, is doing his best to not allow them to oust him as Speaker of the Parliament. So the backup plan that the blue and white has is to oust Edelstein as Speaker and then pass the law that will not allow Netanyahu to run again. This is, that's the hammer they have against Netanyahu for him to agree to whatever they're requesting, which we're not really sure what that is.
Right. So I mean, like you said, the Knesset is currently shut down. But Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein said that, this morning they're going to allow the Knesset to meet on Monday. And Avi Nissenkorn today, he just stormed out of a coronavirus briefing telling the health ministry that such updates should be provided to Knesset committees, which obviously requires the plenum reopening. So why wait until Monday? What's the difference?
He's trying to gain time. Look, the Supreme Court had a meeting today about this. And the justice of the Supreme Court turned to the people of Knesset and said, is there any reason why they can't, if it's an emergency, because the issue is they need an approval from the surveillance that the government put in basically illegally without approval. And the Knesset legal advisor said, no, we could meet tomorrow, but the Speaker of the Knesset won't allow it. And they said, I mean Monday. What's wrong with Friday? Why can't you meet on Friday? And they had no answer because Edelstein is following the requests of Netanyahu to delay, and therefore decrease the amount of time that blue and white has the mandate to create the government and to try to delay and not allow them to pass the laws they want to pass.
Now, in an operation,
if there's a coalition government, it makes no difference. However, if there's not a coalition government, this is what they're trying to do.
All right. Now, in an operation conducted last night, by the Israeli Mossad, members of the organization succeeded in bringing 100,000 corona test kits to Israel from abroad. Why do you think it was a Mossad that brought these tests over and not the Ministry of Health?
Look, the reality is we've seen that the Ministry of Health is trying to do a valiant effort, but they're not organized in the sort of ways that either the Army or the Mossad is to move quickly and do things. The Ministry of Health was behind the 8 ball in the fact that they started ordering things 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. By that time, the whole world is trying to get the same supplies. There's a worldwide shortage. You can hear in the United States that same shortage exists. So there's a worldwide shortage of supplies of this kind, the swabs that are necessary in order to do the tests. And the Ministry of Health waited too long to place those orders. And so the only organizations in this country that know to move quickly are both the Army and, of course, the Mossad knows to move quickly. And when it's abroad, it's the Mossad that knows how to operate, obviously.
Right. All right. Now, let's move on very quickly. If you could just give us a 1 or 2 line answer. What are the next steps that the government is going to be taking? Are we going to be seeing a full lockdown?
I mean, there continuously are rumors that that's what's going to happen. They claim that if people don't voluntarily lock themselves in the house, then they're going to make it legally binding. I would say there's better than a 50% chance they're going to do that. It's still not clear to anybody really how quickly the virus is or is not spreading in the country, because the fact that there are more cases is more a reflection of the fact that we're doing more testing. Mm-hmm. And so until we've done enough testing to get a sense of whether it is really spreading or not, it's really guesswork more than anything else.
All right, Mark Shulman, thank you so much for joining us.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. Well, in other news, upwards of 50 confirmed cases of coronavirus have now been listed by the Palestinian Authority, leading the government in Ramallah to make its own tough calls in the defense against the illness's spread. Aaron Porras has the update.
Just like in dozens of other governments around the world, ministers of the Palestinian Authority's cabinet are all taking steps to reduce the rate of the coronavirus's spread through the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. First, Israel and the PA are working closely to monitor the situation. But to protect themselves, Palestinian Authority cabinet members are keeping their distances from one another while holding their regularly scheduled meetings. And that's among the more relaxed measures implemented. The Al-Aqsa Mosque atop the Temple Mount in Jerusalem has also been closed indefinitely, while prayers continue in smaller numbers in the plaza outside. Also, the PA is urging residents of the Tulkarem neighborhood to stay home in isolation for at least 24 hours after the second case in the city has been revealed. But the biggest concerns lie in the Gaza Strip. The borders to Gaza have all been closed both by Israel and by Hamas, and at least 2,600 Gazans are in home quarantine. And while no diagnosed cases have yet been reported in the coastal enclave, if the virus were to spread in the densely populated region, there would be next to nothing to stop it. The infrastructure in Gaza is already at its limit, and a sudden influx of patients would quickly overwhelm the health workers, which threatens then to spill over into Israeli hospitals. But Israeli hospitals are equally apprehensive to admit such a large number of patients, regardless of any potential security concerns that accompany them.
Now, Israeli government leaders are begging the public to please abide by the rules of social distancing and take the coronavirus seriously. But many communities are still slow to listen, and that's why new directives straight from religious leaders are also now coming out, including from Israeli chief rabbis who say that you may absolutely break certain religious rules if it's in the interest of the public or personal health. So, will the people listen? Well, here with more is Rabbi Dr Shlomo Bly, director of the Tikva Overseas Students Institute and a columnist for JPost. So, Rabbi Brody, there have been protests, weddings, and classes as normal, and some Haredi leaders still say that we're not scared. Why do you think that the ultra-Orthodox public in Israel hasn't really been listening to the Ministry of Health?
Well, it's regrettable. Many have been listening to their instructions, and certainly in the religious Zionist community, many have as well. It's very regrettable, but I think they're starting to get the message now that this is very serious. And Jewish law is very clear. Saving lives trumps over all of these positive commandments, weddings, synagogue attendance, and all other items like this.
Now, we can just see the visuals of this one wedding that took place. I think that this was yesterday or 2 days ago in Israel. It's just insane. But, you know, both of the chief rabbis of Israel are still telling people that they can go to the synagogue because praying is part of saving the state of Israel. What is your take on this?
Well, I think it's just a misguided and bad idea. The chief rabbis are telling people to keep social distance within the synagogues and 6 feet apart, but it's really insufficient. And many other rabbis, including Rabbi Staff from the Torah Rabbinic Organization and others, including myself, are calling on people to not attend synagogue, to not make private quorums, minyanim, at their homes. At this point, there's no obligation to create communal prayer. We all need to continue to pray. We have a lot to pray for right now, but we should do so in our homes with our families.
Now, how should the Jewish people be behaving on the Sabbath or Saturdays? Have there been any changes announced?
Well, one of the chief rabbis correctly said that people should have access to their cell phones around to make sure if they need to be reached by any emergency personnel. I myself am waiting to be tested by MADA right now because we had exposure to someone, and we'll have our phones available on Shabbat in case they need to come to test us on that day.
Right.
But otherwise, I think it's important to try to keep a sense of the sanctity of time and to use this time to be together with our family and to appreciate what's really important in life right now.
Do you think that the government should step in and close all houses of worship, you know, even the Western Wall as an example?
I think it would be better if it came from the people and the rabbis themselves. But if that's what we're headed towards, then yes, the government will be okay for them to do that. I mean, unfortunately, there are many people, not just religious and at synagogues, who are violating these laws as well. And as a part of the broader dealing with this issue, that's an acceptable solution for the government to intervene. But like I said here, religious leaders, I think many are taking the lead here. And that's what people should be doing as well. Take the lead, stay in your homes, pray a lot, but pray in your homes.
All right. Well, Rabbi Shlomo Brody, thank you so much for joining us with this update.
Good to be with you.
Now, as the coronavirus crisis continues, lots of young people find themselves going crazy, staying confined to their homes, with many even breaking the rules. But what is it like for Israel's elderly, the people who are at highest risk of contracting the coronavirus severely? Well, Esther Weinstein is a Holocaust survivor who may have just given us the advice that we need. Take a look.
בגלל כל המצב של הקורונה, לא יכולנו לבוא אלייך השנה.
אני יודעת, חגית, שנזכה לשנה הבאה, ושיהיה שקט, ושיהיה לנו מדינה, ואתם תעשו לי פעמיים בשביל השנה גם.
Esther Weinstein is celebrating her 97th birthday this week in northern Israel. Only this year, there's no family gathering. She's going to have to cut her birthday cake during a video call to her great-grandchildren. It's all to avoid any chance of getting exposed to the coronavirus.
עברתי משהו קשה, גם את זה נעבור.
נכון.
אנחנו חזקים, ואנחנו עוברים על כל הדברים קשים.
The elderly are believed to be the most vulnerable to COVID-19, a respiratory illness that currently has no vaccine or cure. The Israeli government has urged its citizens to stay away from their older relatives, no matter what the occasion. But for Esther, who's a Holocaust survivor that came to Israel from Poland over 70 years ago, having her grandkids sing happy birthday to her through the phone is still enough. Even though they're in central Israel, about 22 miles away from her home in Kibbutz Hulda, Esther is staying positive.
כמה דברים אני עברתי, וברוך השם, הגעתי לגיל, ואני תודה לאל לא חולה, אני בריאה, ומדברת לעניין,
אז תנצחי.
ומשחקת קלפים, יש לי חברות.
טוב.
תמיד צריכים לחיות עם מחשבות טובות.
We should always live in positive thoughts. Now, if Esther can do it, we can do it, guys. That is the kind of attitude that we all need in our world today. Now, like we said, Israeli senior citizens like Esther are the most at risk of contracting severe cases of the coronavirus, but not all of them have a family to depend on. And the Israeli organization Latet has just launched an emergency fund to help assist isolated elderly people access basic needs like food. Joining us with the details is Gabriel Pitiglia, Latet's International Resource Development Director. Hello.
Hi, hello, thank you for having me.
Hello. Well, we're very excited to hear about what you guys are doing. You know, many elderly people in Israel just don't have, the support to buy food, people to go out and bring that food to them. And I understand that your organization is actually offering to help them. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so as you were saying, in Israel, above the age of 75, we have approximately 400,000 elderly, and among them, 80,000 are poor, and and more than 100,000 are isolated. It means that they don't have the means to get out. And anyways, right now, the priority is for every elderly to stay home because they are the highest at risk. So what we did it started 2 weeks ago, and in 2 weeks we succeeded to launch the widest civilian response to the emergency. And we have people packing food and delivering it to the houses of the elderly everywhere in Israel. We're starting by addressing the needs of 15,000 people, and we hope to reach more in function of how it's going to turn. We are having a lot of the foundations joining in this huge chain of solidarity, a lot of Israeli foundations, but also people from abroad. And we see a great response because everyone understands that the most important now is to do everything we can to leave the elderly people at home. And obviously, I want to just add that everything we do is under the guidelines of the Ministry of Health. We don't enter in contact with the elderly people. We leave the package at their door.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how the coronavirus has changed the way that Latet works as an organization.
So we used to never have the finite population that people that we help. We are a universal organization. Anyone who is in need and who is recognized by the Ministry of Social Affairs, we used to serve. So that continues, but we opened a new channel of help, which is only for the elderly. We never did that before. Now people that are elderly are recognized as a people that are more at risk, so it totally makes sense for us to change a bit the way that we serve people.
Now, are you going to be providing masks and other, protective gear to seniors?
So we, on top of the food that we provide, we also give personal hygiene products like soap or alcohol gel or wipes and stuff like that. Currently, we don't deliver masks and gloves, but everything is dynamic. It could change tomorrow. What is true today is true for today. Maybe tomorrow we'll be able to deliver more stuff.
Right. Has the coronavirus, damaged your volunteer system in any way? I imagine there are some people who are scared to volunteer right now.
Yes. So we had everything prepared for Pesach, as we usually do. We had groups that were supposed to come, and people canceled at the last minute. But on the other hand, a lot of people now have more time because they work from home or because they can't work. And we have a huge response from volunteers who come to the logistics center. And again, I want to say everybody is respecting the Ministry of Health regulation. It means that everybody works with gloves, masks, and 2 meters apart, one from another.
Right. So if you want to volunteer, can you just quickly tell us how you can do that?
Yes. So you can call Kochavit, like star 6833, or go on the LATET website, LATET, if you look online. And there you have a link where you can fill in your information and volunteer. And we are waiting for everyone who wants to join this huge effort.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Gabrielle, and good luck with the work that you're doing.
Thank you
I'm going to try to volunteer myself.
Yeah, great. We'll be waiting for you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Help you all. Bye-bye.
All right. Now, Israel's very own Wonder Woman is in coronavirus quarantine herself, and after 6 days locked inside her house, she's taken to social media to share a message. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, we're all in this together. Take a look at this beautiful music video that she's put together with a couple of friends.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
No hell below us.
Above us only sky.
Imagine all the people living for today. Yeah. Imagine there's no countries, yeah.
It isn't hard to do.
Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. They may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Very cute. I'm actually surprised that a lot of those actors could sing. All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is finally beginning, and even if you're stuck at home, it may be better than being outside because today is windy and rainy with a high of 16 degrees Celsius or 61 Fahrenheit, and Friday and Saturday are supposed to be even chillier with a high of 15 Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit and rain throughout both days. So stay warm and stay safe. And now before we go, let's take a look at what is going viral in Israel. The new way to walk dogs in the coronavirus world that we live in. This very smart Israeli figured out how to get a drone to walk his dog, and I'm surprised the dog is dealing with that. I think my dog would freak out, honestly. Very impressive. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.68 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and stay safe.